Alrighty then, let's talk about movies. I wanted to talk more about movies on my channel for quite a while, but you know the copyright situation on YouTube is a bit sketchy, so I don't want to use clips and before I didn't want to appear on camera like this at all, but I'm doing better with that now, so I'm going to talk about movies in some future upcoming videos. And I thought, what better place to start than with my favorite movies? Now, usually in this situation, a person would make a top 10 favorite movies list, but I don't have such a list. I don't have a top 10 anyway, because there are maybe like 20, 30 movies that I really, really like, but then there are only 8 that I really, really like. So I can say, I've worked it out, I have a top 8 favorite movies, but I do not have a top 10. So so basically I'm going to have a bunch of honorable mentions in this video as a sort of this introduction, and then do my top 8. But as the other part of the introduction, I would like to say that I am not a movie critic type. I am not a gourmet movie person. I very much like the blockbuster franchises stuff, and since I'm born in 1985, a lot of my favorite stuff is like 80s and 90s oriented. You won't see any lists, you won't see any movies that are this like, oh, this delectable 1967 Lithuanian film about the struggles of blah blah blah. That's not really my style. I'm much more standard in that sense, and I can see a movie that's anyone would say is really, really, really good, like dramatically in the script and blah blah blah. But then I could see a big budget action whatever and think that would just entertain me more than the actual movie that's technically better, and then I would end up saying that this one is the movie I like more, just because that's how I work. So yeah, don't expect many of these movies to be too highbrow, but whatever. Now, before I get to my top 8, I'm going to discuss a bunch of honorable mentions. Now, basically, I've also narrowed down my list of honorable mentions, because it could be like 20 movies, but I have narrowed it down to 5. 5 movies that are above the cut when it comes to all the other movies that I like a lot, but they're not quite there to make my top 8 into a top 10. So, without further ado, here are 5 honorable mentions. Monty Python and the Holy Grail. This is a movie I grew up with. The humor was so out there, and me and people in school, mostly me, would just quote it all the time, like the knights would say "nee," and the castle. "Ah." I'd say my favorite part today is almost the peasant guy who's like, "Old woman, man. Oh, sorry, but from behind you look at. I'm 34. What? I'm 34. I'm not old. I can't just call you man. You could say Dennis. I didn't know you were called Dennis. Well, you didn't bother to find out, did you?" But one thing as a child, I never liked the ending, because it just like I really wanted. I mean, that's the point that they make in the movie. But I really wanted to see the battle. I wanted to see Arthur take that castle from those asshole Frenchmen. But then they all just get arrested because they killed the narrators. But very strange, but definitely one of my favorites. Lethal Weapon 2. Now, out of all the Lethal Weapon movies, I like them all to varying degrees. The first one, it's one of those kind of like Mega Man 2 or 3 or whatever. I technically know that Lethal Weapon 1 is the better movie. It has better storyline. It has more of an arc for Mel Gibson, and he overcomes his big problem that he has. But I just find Lethal Weapon 2 more entertaining. The villains are, even though Gary Busey is great as always in the first movie, the Nazi type South Africans are just very menacing and enjoyable at the same time. And Joe Pesci is very good in this one. He gets a little tiring in the other 2 movies, but he's really good. The tempo is really upbeat, and because Mel Gibson solved this problem in the first movie, he's more happy in the second movie, so to speak, more relaxed, at least for a majority of the movie, and that you could say is takes away the tension from the first movie, but on the other hand, it just opens it up for more entertainment, and that is they certainly make a good job of that. So, Lethal Weapon 2. Now for a much older movie, A Shot in the Dark from 1960 something, 64 maybe, with Peter Sellers, Herbert Lom or Loom, however you say his name, and what was it, Elke Summers. It's the only people I know from it. I like the Pink Panther movies in general. I thought the first one was pretty boring. But I haven't seen it in a long time, so I can't really be sure that I still think that. I think the last one with Peter Sellers throughout the whole movie before he died mid in the other one, The Revenge of the Pink Panther is one of the best ones. But also the second one, A Shot in the Dark, that is the best one. I really like Clouseau, how he's really full of himself, but super clumsy at the same time. And whenever he messes up, he can't acknowledge it. He ever can't acknowledge it. He's just like... just passes it right through, and it's very subtle in this movie. It's not as his French accent is not at all as stereotypically over the top as it is in later movies or the reboots, which were atrocious. There's this one thing that goes through the whole Pink Panther series where he says something in French like that's really wrong, like she received a bump upon the bump. What? You said bump. Yes, I know. So he always like first when he gets the thing said back to him, he always goes like, "What? Are you crazy?" And then he said, "You said this." I'm like, "Yes, I know." He always like that was obvious, like because he never ever admits that he does something wrong. But yeah, a really funny movie from start to finish, and don't be scared off by its age because it's really really good. First Blood, aka Rambo 1. I call it Rambo 1 sometimes. But yeah, First Blood is a really good movie. It's one of those that makes you think and entertains you at the same time. I mean, the whole movie has a great suspense, and it has some humor and action. But basically what makes it is the end. Because Rambo has his monologue, he says very little throughout the whole movie, but then at the end he has a monologue which is very heartfelt. Especially, the best line, which pushes it just up slightly a bit, is when he says like in the army I could drive $1 million equipment, I was equipped to ride tanks, and here I can't even hold down a job parking cars, and he throws the machine gun through the window. That really paints the picture of him going from this respected army person to just some asshole drifter in the real world who can't get a job. And yeah, I really feel for him. And then he starts crying, and then I start laughing, because I can't take Sylvester Stallone crying seriously after I saw Rocky 3. It's not possible. But anyway, First Blood is definitely one of my favorites. And last of the honorable mentions is And Justice for All by Al Pacino. Well, not by Al Pacino, but with Al Pacino. I could make and I probably will, make a totally separate list called Top 10 Al Pacino movies, because Al Pacino is my favorite actor. And below him would be Jack Nicholson and Denzel Washington. They almost never make a bad movie, either of these three. But anyway, And Justice for All is from 1979, and Al Pacino plays a lawyer, defense lawyer, was it? Yes, defense lawyer. And he is ethical in a world of unethical people. Like, they treat, all the other people around him treat justice kind of like a something that's not so important. You can make deals and you can do this and you can do that, but he has principles. There's the main thread of the movie is that he gets asked to defend a judge who has been accused of raping and beating a young woman. And that goes not from the very beginning of the movie, but pretty early on and then towards the end. But interspersed with that is a bunch of different cases that he has. He has to defend a transvestite man who's accused of stealing or something, who really, really, really doesn't want to go to prison. A guy who innocently is in prison because of a busted taillight, and they thought he had stolen his car, and he's innocent, but the asshole judge that he has to defend just won't listen to him at all, because he's an asshole. He goes 100% by the book and does not care about anything else. And then other stuff happens, blah blah. But I like that you get this wider picture of the courts in general, and the main thread is very interesting. But again, sort of like the last speech in First Blood, the end monologue by Al Pacino is what pushes the movie over the top, way over the top, almost to the degree of putting it as number 9 on my favorite movies list. The last monologue, it was funny because it's his opening statement in the trial, and it ends after that one. I was when I was seeing that movie, it had gone on for almost 2 hours, but still I was sitting there like, all right then, opening statement, and then we're gonna have the prosecutor, and then we're gonna have witnesses, and then we're gonna have blah blah blah, and then we're gonna have the big gavel moment at the end where the judge that he's defending gets either acquitted or guilty. But no, it ends after his opening statement, and in such a way does it end. Watch Mojo did a top 10 Al Pacino performances, and they did not feature this role. Why the fuck not? A lot of people were commenting about it, and yeah, and I would say that I have no idea if this is true, but I would hope that Phoenix Wright from Phoenix Wright Games was inspired by this movie, because Al Pacino does like this. He does that in the movie. Yeah, if you haven't seen the movie, see the movie. If you might think it's boring earlier, it'll all be worth it at the end. And if you've already seen it, then just go watch the monologue again, because it's amazing. Those were my honorable mentions. Just in general, otherwise I could mention some others that didn't make these 5, but still would be ones that I would count. The Beverly Hills Cop movies, 1 and 2, 3 is not as good. The Lord of the Rings trilogy, and they go all together. Even though I think the Two Towers is my favorite of those 3. Indiana Jones, the Raiders of the Lost Ark, and The Last Crusade. I'm not that big on Temple of Doom, and Crystal Skull certainly wasn't that good. The Matrix, mostly the first movie, because the acting was believable in the first movie. It was kind of stiff and kind of like they're just too concerned with looking cool, but it still worked. But in the second and third movie, they were just robots. It didn't work almost at all. And then just in general, I like Jim Carrey movies like The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, Liar Liar. Another, Al Pacino movies is one big category that I really like. And the other category is parodies. And then I'm not talking about, I do like Scary Movie 1, it's okay, and Scary Movie 3, but that's a separate issue. I hate Aaron Friedberg and Jason Seltzer, okay? Fuck those people. They make shit parodies. The people who make great parodies are named David Zucker, Jerry Zucker, and Jim Abrams, and with a little addendum of writer/director Pat Proft, because they make great ones, and you will see later maybe The Naked Gun and Top Secret and Hot Shots and Scary Movie 3, even though but it has. Everyone hates it. A superhero movie too. Everyone hates those two. They just lump it together with all the other shit parodies. But they actually have some really funny jokes, I think. And then I like the Rocky series, and the Rocky 3 is my favorite there. I like Alien and Aliens. I have seen Alien Resurrection, but it wasn't good. Predator, also very good. Predator 2 is okay. The most general thing I could say about my movie tastes are that I like action, comedy, and action comedy. That would be my main tastes, at least. So, tune in next time and we shall look at my number 8 favorite movie of all time.